tonight. It's been another really great week for music. We have so much great music stuff going on to talk to you about, not just at Culture Shock and with some of the releases coming in, but Lauren and I last night got to go see some great live music with some friends. We went to Rainier and saw Cake and Ben Folds. That was a lot of fun. I'd be showing off some Cake records, but I don't have any. They're kind of rare for some reason. Hopefully they'll reissue that box set again. And going on here locally in Rockford this Saturday is going to be the Blues Fest going on at Lyron Park. All day blues. We have a booth set up there. We're going to be a vendor hanging out, enjoying some blues music. So definitely check that. Support music wherever you can. And of course, support your local record store. That's what we're here talking about, is some releases from some independent and bigger artists too. So we've got a lot of great things to talk about. First off, I'll just say, if you haven't been checking us out, this is our Vinyl Happy Hour series. We're doing live videos every Thursday. If you're watching right now live, we typically do these every Thursday night, usually around 8. We're doing it a little early tonight. But please share your comments with us. Let us know some interesting things you have to say about some of these releases here, or maybe some of your own records at home. And if you're catching these on a repeat later, just leave an R. Let us know you're watching the repeat or seeing them afterwards. They're both coming out live on Facebook and Instagram. And we also have the higher quality versions of them up on YouTube. Just find our Vinyl Happy Hour at the Culture Shock Clothing and Records YouTube page, please. But anyway, so what is Vinyl Happy Hour? Every week we are going through some releases that are coming into Culture Shock, because Friday is a new release date, so we always get our new releases in and our used records. We kind of unveil some more every Friday. And we're kind of talking about, or giving a little more depth to usually a couple of new artists, a couple of reissues, and we'll usually pull out some used stuff or a couple of holy grails or rare gems too from the collection at the store or from my personal collection. Tonight though, everything we're going to feature are items from Culture Shock that are available there. But we kind of just want to give you a little breakdown, a little more in-depth about something that's going on in the record world with all the different releases that are becoming available, plus all the special reissues and stuff like that. It's really nice to get a little more info on what's going on, so you can feel a little bit more prepared whenever you stop in to do some record shopping or supporting your favorite local record store. And of course, we're featuring a drink too. It is Vinyl Happy Hour. We are now on episode 13. Again, these are totally live, unedited, just live videos. So it's a lot of fun to see what we can discover or pull out here in just a few minutes. As you can see, my first record I'm talking about is a special release from the Cranberries. And we are going to have an Irish whiskey tonight. Usually I have a bourbon here for my Vinyl Happy Hour. But I figured with the Cranberries, the Irish band, one of my favorite bands of the 90s, of course, I had to try some of this. This is actually something I picked up a bottle of this. We were at the Irish Tenors were singing at the Coronado here in Rockford a couple years ago. And they had a special, like a pre-thing going on for an Irish whiskey tasting. And I hadn't had many Irish whiskeys yet, so it was a great way to kind of discover and sample some new flavors. Ireland is who just really started making whiskey. That's where whiskey kind of comes from. And I guess in the Gaelic sense or original language, whiskey means the water of life. So they're the most famous country who kind of started whiskey, which caught on more in Scotland, Canada, and of course the United States later on. But this is a single grain whiskey, 8 years old, small batch whiskey. And even though it's older, it's aged in a bourbon barrel, and that really does help bring out some of the sweeter scents. Even though on the aroma side of it, there is not a very sweet smell to it. It definitely has more of just an alcohol smell. But the flavors are definitely a little sweeter for sure. It is a very smooth whiskey. I obviously went with this one probably because I do like those the caramels and coconuts and other flavors that come out of the wood with usually a bourbon. And it makes sense, it was aged in a bourbon barrel. So definitely a great flavor. The other interesting thing about spirits like whiskey and bourbon and stuff like that is they're only aging while they're in the barrels. Once they hit the bottle and once they're bottled, that's the end of the aging process. So 20 years from now or 50 years from now, this bottle will still taste the same. So it's one I've been saving for a little bit, and I thought tonight would be a great night to open it up. Recently there were some reissues of some Cranberries albums. The first one I want to feature though is Something Else. This is a 2-record set or 2 LP set of music from the career of the Cranberries. It actually had a couple new songs on it. This came out in 2017, just a year before Dolores the singer died from Cranberries. And there are some acoustic versions and some orchestral versions of their songs from their career. And it's a gatefold, got that stuff. And then there's picture inserts too. It actually did come out, I guess. I never saw it, and it was only in Europe, I think, on black vinyl the year before she passed away here last year in 2017. This is the 2018 version, and they did a very limited batch with picture inserts, and it's on very bright colored green vinyl, as you can see, and it's got all the band members' pictures on it. The band is, did stay original. It's all the original members of the band. But what's interesting about the artwork, I thought, on the cover too, is they're all repeating the original image that they did on their second album. So you can see them all aged over the years, but just like the No Need to Argue one there on there. So this is another one that's been reissued from the Cranberries. This was their second album from '94, and there's been some different color vinyl versions coming out. This is like a clear blue and color splatter vinyl. But very sad about her passing. Cranberries, ranks right up there for me in the 90s with Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer and all those bands. But definitely recommend checking this out. We might have just a couple copies of this left in the store. It did just come out about a month or so ago. But just a really great collection of their music. The next album I have here is a brand new release from another well-known band of the 90s, Alice in Chains. Another band where their singer has passed away. They've done a couple albums now with their new singer. Of course, here's another reissue of some of their earlier 90s stuff. But this new album, it's really good. It sounds just like the original Alice in Chains sound and lineup. It's a double LP. Really cool on the artwork here on the jacket. You see the little pyramid there. The inner sleeve kind of ties into the artwork because it's a die cut. So the little picture inside kind of comes out of the eye. Great recording, the excellent sound. It's actually a really heavy album. It hits just like Alice in Chains should. A lot of great guitar solos too, with a really great distortion. This vocalist though is really on. The sound of Alice in Chains obviously goes with the vocals. This sounds like the original sound. It's really heavy, really dark, kind of just right out of the 90s again. But the guitar solos actually kind of take me back to the time of whenever hair metal and stuff was crossing over or phasing out and when grunge was happening, because it actually does have some of that older metal sound with the solos they're doing. But it's just a really cool album, and again, the vocalist is just really great on this one. The band really, their sound is crafted so well around those vocals. He's playing guitar on it too. It's just a 4-piece band, but the guitar sounds so heavy you'd think there's more people playing with the band. Let's get a little more of this. Interesting thing about this, the whiskey tasting we went to was actually hosted by a local bar, Blue Line, the whiskey pub here in town, and they brought in one of their liquor representatives who told us more about the drinks. And that's where I'm actually going a little bit. We have a local business meeting there with Winnebago Buy Local tonight, so I'll maybe try some different whiskeys while I'm there. But differently than Scotch, Irish whiskey is all single grain and just naturally aged in a barrel, whereas Scotch, I guess they use peat and stuff like that, and that's why Scotch will have that earthy taste. And I haven't really developed a taste for Scotch yet, so I'm really happy with this one. This is a lot more like a whiskey or a bourbon I would usually go with. Another great band has a new release out. They've been around for quite a while. This is Murder by Death, The Other Shore. Their new album, they did a limited color vinyl version, just an indie store. They call it Bone White Vinyl. Again, let us know. Leave any comments if you have seen any of these bands or have heard any tracks off of this album yet. There are a couple tracks out. This doesn't come out till tomorrow, so you can't really find it anywhere or hear it yet. But we do have several copies in the store that we're releasing tomorrow. Murder by Death is another one of my favorite bands. I can just show off. They've actually just recently reissued some of their previous albums. So pretty much all, I think 7 albums now that they have are available. And they started out about 2002. They only have 2 of their original members here who have continued throughout the career with them, and that is the singer and their celloist. So they have a really unique sound. They're kind of like a really dark indie rock sound with a lot of this cool saloonish swagger of like alternative country or something like that. They're it come across with the really deep dark vocals is what strikes you at first. But really helps set them apart is the way they play homage to like this kind of darker country sound, and the cello is so beautiful, both live when you see them and on the recording. I just love the deep sounds of the cello that go along with the music. The vocalist, he has also a pretty dark, kind of heavier voice too, kind of like, I don't know. Well, of course, some people could say Johnny Cash and stuff too, but so many other artists that he could sound like. And yeah, I'm trying to blank on who I was going to say that he sounds like. Nick Cave, yeah. Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds. That's who I was thinking, and I really like his voice too. But this band, this is kind of a concept album. It's called The Other Shore, and it's actually about like a couple of the songs are called Space and Traveling Far, and it's about and The Last Night on Earth. So it's about like kind of the Earth ending, and people are getting on a ship or a spaceship to go to a new place or a new land in outer space. So it's kind of got this kind of strange story about the people leaving Earth and ending up on a different planet or something. But definitely worth checking out. They're on Bloodshot Records here, kind of a Midwest record label who has a lot of other really great a lot of country and folk rock artists and stuff like that. But I have to tell you more about Murder by Death though, because they started in about 2002. They were on Vagrant Records, and I had seen that they were on some tours. This is like, I was barely like even on MySpace back then, but with a band with a title like Murder by Death, I thought for sure this was gonna be like some screaming metal hardcore band. They were actually on the bill with a lot of metal and hardcore bands. I had seen them opening for like The Bled and Against Me and As I Lay Dying and stuff like that, so I assume they're either punk or metalcore. But their first album or two, they were a lot different sounding. They were more instrumental, but very mellow, very just good mood setting. And I thought it was so strange that I assumed this band was going to be a hardcore band, but they were far from it. Just really great instrumental. They were playing with upright bass and piano and cello and guitars and drums, and such a cool band. We also have seen them with William Elliott Whitmore, Lucero, some other good bands kind of that sound. But that's just a few of the new releases that are coming out here tomorrow. There's also still some new stuff from Death Cab for Cutie and reissues of some Misfits and a lot of other great bands. I'm going to go show off a couple used records right now, though, from the store. This is Mick Ronson's self-titled, or not self-titled, but his debut album, Slaughter on 10th Avenue. It's from, I think, 74. Mick Ronson, really underrated guitarist. I guess he has been acclaimed in like Rolling Stones as like one of the top 50 guitarists of all time. Pull this off so you can get a better look at him. He has a look you might recognize. It looks very kind of Bowie-ish, I would say. He was the guitarist for David Bowie, and that's where I first heard him. He's on my favorite Bowie. He's a guitarist on Man Who Saved the World, which oddly enough has two different album covers. They reissued it with different artwork. That's a really good heavy rock and glam rock Bowie album. He was also on Pin-Ups and Ziggy Stardust, Spiders from Mars. He carried over and started his own band after a few albums with Bowie. He made friends with some people who were in like the Stooges and stuff like that in the Detroit scene, because David Bowie and Iggy Pop were working together. And he struck out solo after the Spiders from Mars tour was over. This is a really great, good 70s glam rock album, well written, great vocals. And it's almost a continuation of some of the Ziggy Stardust sound of Bowie. So if you're a fan of that, you would definitely like Mick Ronson stuff. Yeah, it's another one from the used section of the store. My last record here is not an LP, but it's a 45. It's just a strange little release. We picked it up in a little box of 45s. We bought a record collection. And I was like, what the heck is this? I don't even know. The first thing that struck me was that it's on IGL record label, never heard of it. It's an Iowa record label, so it's a private pressing. And the next thing I noticed right away is that one of the songs was Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. So I was like, this might be some strange cover of Jimi Hendrix. I've never heard of this band called Fifth Generation. It turns out to be quite a rare record, actually. Rare 45, I should say. I did a little checking out on it, and the band Fifth Generation, they're from Iowa. They were a garage rock band from the 60s. And they had never recorded anything. They did a lot of covers and stuff live and things like that. Well, they had an original song, Carolyn, and they released that on a 45, or recorded, I should say. And when they're in the studio, they're like, what should we do for the B-side? And this was 68. A couple of the guys knew the song Purple Haze, really liked Jimi Hendrix. This song was not very big then. Like, at the time, nobody really knew Purple Haze. This was over a year or two before he played that at Woodstock. And it wasn't super well known, but it's considered one of the greatest and kind of craziest covers of Purple Haze ever. The value, it's not in the record book or anything that I have anyway, but it looks like it usually sells for anywhere from $75 to $150. I think there's someone on eBay trying to ask $350 for it, which seems a little outlandish to me, but I played it. It plays great. It's got some light marks on it, but it's a really cool kind of fuzzy guitar pedal cover of Purple Haze with great vocals and some organ in it also. And the band is from Iowa. They were just kind of a smaller band that played mostly locally, but It's just cool. You never know what you're going to find when you're digging through a collection of records, you know? And that's what we love to find, are those kind of rare gems and odd things like that, as well as some of our favorite bands, you know, anything from Alice in Chains to David Bowie and Mick Ronson. So, yeah, I hope you had fun checking this out. Like I said, please leave us any comments here. Lauren's here behind the cameras, too, if you have anything you want to comment on or any ideas for the show. We'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you have any of these records in your collection, let us know, or if you have different color variants. And every Thursday night, you know, check out our vinyl happy hour here. And yeah, we'd love to hear more of what you have to say and keep checking it out. Until next time, guys, thanks so much. Cheers.